We got Crimson Combine winners and losers coming up next on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. The Oklahoma Sooners debuted the Crimson Combine over the weekend in lieu of the traditional spring game. Jay was in attendance, so we're going to have a lot of thoughts from Jay on this, but from afar, the 10,000-foot view of it, it looked like those that were in attendance, Jay, had a pretty good time.
If you physically went, you enjoyed yourself. A lot of people talked about how they enjoyed some of the setup, the allowing people on the field. They had a whole section that had like a bouncy house and a store that you can go buy memorabilia that you can use. They were giving away posters to be able to use to get signatures. Watching the actual combine itself, kind of a mixed feeling here. So one of the things that jumped out to me was everything being so spread out made it kind of tough to decide where you're going to be. You had the DBs here, the linemen over there. Overall, it was a practice. It was a practice, and fans got to see what a practice actually looks like. The problem you run into that is that it's a practice. And so nobody has any clue what's actually going on. And so the fans just kind of like looking and just watching and observing from afar. If there was a little bit more pointedness to that, I think it would have came across better. But John, overall, it left a lot to be desired. And I think it is something they can build upon. So there's not all negatives here. I think this is something that can be built upon. I did go back and watch the broadcast version, and man, I got even more to say about that.
It's a start. I don't think we ever go back to the traditional spring game. It's clear that this is where college football is heading. They don't want to have this overexposure of their talent, of their athletes, either to injury or to potential quote unquote tampering. But yeah, I do think that this is a style of spring game, quote unquote, that you can build upon, that you can add to. I mean, the 7-on-7 highlights that we got out of this, I think were really good. Seeing John Mateer throw the ball in red zone work, seeing Dion Burks, like Dion Burks is back. They kind of have been treating him with kid gloves during spring ball, but they unleashed him a little bit in what I saw. And so I think that's encouraging. And you were able to take away some actual football things from that portion of the practice. And I think they can build on that. I think some of the fan inducements that they had out there, autographs with players, the stuff that the kids went through, the kind of combine drills, I think that kind of stuff is fun. The kicking competition, all that stuff is really, really fun. And you can continue to have that, just build on the practice elements of it and figure out a way to make it a little bit more streamlined, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of the key part, is streamlining it. But to be honest, like I said, I feel like there's something they can build upon, but I don't even think they'll do this next year. And I say that because after the Colorado Syracuse thing, I can totally see all the schools going that direction of doing an actual scrimmage, because it didn't pop off as much as they wanted it to on this first round. I think the announced attendance, which is probably the ticket sales total, was like 16,000 or maybe 16,000 did check in. There was a lot of people there, and a lot of people in a lot of different places, from in the concession stands to being on the field in the back. There are a lot of people around, and then sitting in the stands in multiple spots. People were finding the best view possible, and they were kind of enjoying themselves. And so they were relaxed, drinking some beer, eating some hot dogs. The weather was perfect. It was so optimal. And usually spring game weekend is pretty chilly because it's usually a week later. Them having it up this week, it was definitely in the optimal weather time. So if anything, John, I could see them trying to push for a scrimmage next year instead, because I think that will be a lot more appealing to the fan base. But what you did get out of it, though, is, as you mentioned, the 7-on-7 drills were really good. And you got to see John Mateer not only run some RPOs and tuck and run, but he also was launching some passes. Dion Burks looked good. You got to see some of the young DBs and the young wide receivers play. Saw some Manny Choice. There was an Ivan Carrion sighting. He caught a pass across the middle. Like, yes. So you got to see some of these guys move around. And I think the one big underrated thing that you got out of it, besides the players doing all these signatures, shout out to John Mateer, because he was willing to take pictures and do signatures all night, because he was there forever going down the line, was being able to be close enough to the players to actually see how big these dudes are. Like, physically, I'm standing by Reggie Powers the third, and he for real looks 6'1", 210. Right? Well, actually, he looks about like 230. He's stocky, and he told me, yeah, I'm 210 right now. I was like, yeah. He's like, I've shaved it down. I was like, oh, so you're all muscle. You're a huge human being. Him, got to see Kendall Dobie run through some drills. And I think that was also the other piece. They got to see players do drills that we haven't seen in a while. Mm-hmm. Now you can say, oh, Kendall Dobie looks good. He might make it week 1. Those things, Taylor Tatum was running. There was a lot going on, but it was really good to be able to see the physically imposing size of some of these linemen. Fasusi and Fogier, yeah. Huge humans.
So in addition to them, who stood out to you either in the drill work or in the 7-on-7, the goal line stuff? What really stood out to you?
Drill work wise, I like the offensive line. Fasusi stood out a little bit to me. You could tell not only his physically imposing side, he looks like he was making it happen. Trent Wilson is a lot bigger than I thought too. Like, when you see him going through the drills and just walking around, you're like, wow, he's big. I see why he's always frowning. He's huge. He's just a tall dude, and he just looks mean, which is perfect for what you want.
Right.
But seeing Kendall Dobie do those drills jumped out, because now I feel very comfortable with even him telling me, saying that him telling us that he's going to come week 1 and play. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll see. I know there was a lot of no, the speed that he was going through the drills, he's probably back at the beginning of the season, which is a blessing and a huge piece for us. Burks, of course, jumped out. Jacoby Johnson had some really good pass breakups too. So you got to see him kind of stand out at corner and look like he's, trying to get back to, get to the form that we've hoped that he'd be at 6'2". You want a big corner that's fast enough to keep up with SEC guys. He looked like he was starting to figure it out. So, but the drills with the DBs, seeing the freshman Tristan Haynes, as well as Cortland Guillory, seeing Malik Hawkins, they were also very nice. It just all encompassing. It was good seeing a lot of the young players get out there and run some drills.
Just from some of the video that I saw and highlights that I saw, I really liked the way John Mateer was throwing the ball. I know we're gonna get a little bit too excited maybe about what John Mateer can do, because he's not got a group of defensive linemen bearing down on him. It's not full contact on him. But we always talk about quarterbacks with off-platform throws and throwing with different arm angles and things like that. He's a natural at that, and you can tell. Like, he throws a sidearm ball with relative ease. I'm too excited about John Mateer, and I'm going to try and tamper it down over the next 4 months as we get towards the start of the college football season.
Inject it,
but
stop it.
But John Mateer, man, he looked really, really good. And I don't think there's any reason to expect him not to be really good this season.
Me either. He looks like a quarterback. He just looks like a really good quarterback. Everything that we were hoping for, he looks like that. He looks like a dude that takes command of the room, that goes out and leads the way, leads by example. I mean, like I said, he was there doing signatures late. He was one of the last ones there, and he was going all the way around. And the way they had it set up, it was from the home side. They had the 50-yard line with a rope for fans to come there, and then he was coming around to the visitor side. He was going all the way around, making sure he was getting signatures in. That tells you just what type of dude he is and how he's there for the people. Can't beat that. Adding that component to everything else we've seen with him, with his ability to throw. We have to talk about this on another episode, but the value that Mateer is going to give to Hawkins going forward, he was one that stepped out too. We'll have to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll continue to break down Crimson Combine thoughts, discussion of what stood out to Jay as he was there. And share with us your thoughts. If you were at the Crimson Combine, make sure you drop a note over on YouTube and let us know what your thoughts were of the actual event, which players stood out to you, and who you're excited about for 2025. We got some good news from Brent Venables. In addition to watching Dion Burks and Kendall Dolby do stuff, some potentially good news for the Oklahoma Sooners at wide receiver coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Ever step into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When we started using Monarch Money, we realized just how much we were spending on food. It's too much, unfortunately. We have to start budgeting smarter so that we can save more. Manage your money with your partner, and it's smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Jay, Brent Venables spoke with media after the Crimson Combine and did confirm that Javonnie Gibson was injured, something that Parker Thune and George Stoya had reported last week. Wasn't a cast, but Brent Venables also mentioned that if everything goes according to plan, fingers crossed here, that he could be back by week 1.
I had my fingers, my toes, my legs,
my eyes,
all eyes crossed, everything. If you name it, I got it. Man, hey, that would be huge for us if Javonnie is able to come back. And basically what Brent Venables said in a nutshell, the injury was similar to Kendall Dolby's. Someone rolled up on the back of his leg, and he had surgery earlier this week, but the thing that was good about it is that it wasn't as severe as Kendall's, in which we know with KD, he had, ligaments and all kinds of stuff going on with the lower part of that ankle, and it was a snap. He was out, and they said that he was ready last month, but they haven't had him go full. They're gradually, because they want him back for the season, because he is a key component to this defense. So you want to make sure that he's as healthy as possible coming the season. Well, going back a month or so, that's about 6 months from injury, because he's injured in September. That's massive. If he was able to come back in 6 months and Javonnie Gibson is less severe based upon that, I can totally see the August, because in August, that's 4 months from now. That is the perfect time frame for him to show up game 1, which is at the end of August. So that's 4 months and like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You get that, John, we're back in business, baby.
Yeah. Maybe I'm living with a little bit of PTSD from the 2024 year where it was just another week. We're close. We're day to day with all these wide receivers, and none of it ever really came to fruition. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I hope Javonnie Gibson is back for week 1. That'd be awesome. I just want him healthy. I want him 100% for as much of the 2025 season as I can have him for. I don't need him to come out for week 1 if he's 75%. Don't push the timeline just to get out there. Get healthy, get right, be 100%, then come on back, because you'll be a weapon.
Guaranteed. And for me, I'm not even really concerned about him making it week 1. Week 1, I would like him to suit up and just be around, be, dressed and everything. Week 2, I want him for Michigan.
Yep.
That would be the game that I'm saying, and that leads into September. So that would be even bigger for him to come back in the second weekend of September and be back in full health or enough. Yeah, full health. We want him full health. He's 100% and he's cleared to go week 1. Play him week 2. Of course, you would like to get some of the chemistry with him and Mateer back by having him play around in the Illinois State game, but nah, why even? Yeah, for what? No reason to. Have him prepare and play for the Michigan game, and then just unleash him there for the rest of the season.
Who do you think has the best opportunity to stand out and earn some significant reps, both in fall camp and early in the season, if Javonnie Gibson's not ready week 1?
If you want me to be honest, the best chance for taking over where Javonnie was might be Elijah Thomas, because I believe that Zion Kearney's probably going to win that other receiver spot. You'll have him with Keontez Lewis probably running over there. Keontez could probably too, if he's healthy, he could end up also taking that spot on the left, on the opposite side of Kearney, where Javonnie was. You could have Keontez Lewis out there as long as he's healthy. So I think it's between him and and Elijah Thomas. I think Elijah Thomas really stood out in practices based upon a lot of the reports. And if that's the case, you need to find a way to get him on the field as often as possible so that he can show out.
The other part of this is the transfer portal is going to be opening up on the 16th, 15th, 16th. And Oklahoma is going to be aggressive. Jim Nagy mentioned it last week. They're planning to try to upgrade their starting units. Wide receiver, I think, is one of those positions that everybody feels like they're going to attack. But with this Javonnie Gibson news, do you still feel like going after a starting wide receiver in the transfer portal is a necessity?
I do believe so. You need one more. You need one more with experience. And that's nothing against the young guys that we have. You want to build them up and get them ready. But you need one guy that's had the experience at the collegiate level, potentially he's put up some numbers, that's ready to go out there and play day one. Javonnie's is a great example of it. He came in and became wide receiver 1 because why? He's that dude. Mm-hmm. You get yourself a second one like that, then you can take your time with getting your other guys ready and get them prepared to play 2 years, if not 3, and boom, you can ship them off to the pros and begin that cycle again. So you want to get yourself probably one more veteran, because honestly, there was no words on Jaden Gibson at all. We didn't hear anything about Jaden. We heard about Javonnie, but we haven't heard much about Jaden, even though Jaden's timetable is still August. Haven't been much word said on him. So we're just waiting on the next, diagnosis on him or update on him. It sounds like, I guess he's still on par, but haven't heard anything about it. And so that's probably where my concern or questions come into play is, where are we at when it comes to Jaden, as well as when it comes to, now that we know more about Javonnie. But we're probably going to need at least one more. How many do you think we should get?
Well, here's the thing. I feel more comfortable at wide receiver now that I've seen Dion Burks back.
Yeah.
If I have Dion Burks and I have Keontez Lewis emerging and Zion Kearney is, becoming the player that everybody thinks he can become, I got Isaiah Satania, Elijah Thomas is standing out, Manny Choice is standing out, Ivan Carrion is a 4-star prospect. You've got options. Again, I feel a lot better about it with Dion Burks and Isaiah Satania making the plays that they're making and the emergence of Zion Kearney. If you didn't have your young guys stepping up and showing out, I'd feel maybe like it was a bigger need to go after a legit, frontline wide receiver to add to your starting lineup. I think now where things stand, you might be able to go into fall camp and just let the competition continue to take place and see who emerges. Because again, you've got Burks and Satania and Keontez Lewis that have that experience. Mm-hmm. And if Javonnie Gibson is back, then you're good. If Jaden's back, you're even better. But then you've got a really solid group of young guys that can battle it out for either that third or fourth wide receiver spot and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I could see it both ways. If they went and added a starting level wide receiver in the transfer portal, I'm not going to be mad about it. If they decided, hey, you know what? We've seen enough out of our young guys this spring to let them to continue to compete for snaps with our starting lineup, I wouldn't be mad at that either. I think you could play it both ways. They like the guys that they've recruited. We've talked about it a number of times on this show. At some point, you've got to trust your evaluations and your development. And if all that is right, then these guys should start stepping into roles, especially the Zion Kearneys, Ivan Kerryons. Those guys should start emerging and becoming significant players in the offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You've got so many potential options. Luckily, you don't have a situation where you do feel like the cupboard is bare. It's not, and most of them are all back healthy, and that to me helps.
And you're not relying on a group of true freshmen anymore.
Yes, they got
Zion
experience.
Kearney, Ivan Kerryon, Zion Reagans, they're a year older. KJ Daniel, that stuff matters. Just 1 year can make such a big difference in just your understanding of what you're supposed to do as a collegiate football player. Yeah, 1 year as just a college student made such a big difference. Like a year of experience, all that stuff matters. So again, they might go out a wide receiver. I don't think it says anything negatively against the young guys that they've got. It could just be, hey, we want to make sure we have a veteran presence for insurance purposes, and we want to have a legit difference maker. And if there's one out there that is going to be a legit difference maker, by all means, go get them. The Oklahoma Sooners lost a player to the transfer portal. We'll discuss him coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trading pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies in just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Went to a wedding over the weekend, Jay, and got to meet several Locked On Sooners everydayers, Marty and Marshall. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate you all making sure you said hello. Shout out to Matt as well. Another everydayer that I got to meet at the wedding too. So it was a group of Locked On Sooners everydayers at this wedding. So it was a fun time to talk ball and talk Oklahoma football. Jay, the Oklahoma Sooners lost another player to the transfer portal. Devon Mitchell was the first of the spring portal session. Now Mikel Patterson McDonald has also announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal, which officially opens on the 16th.
And that checks out for kind of how the room has been going. Mikel Patterson McDonald's been dealing with some injuries at the beginning of his career here. And as some reports that I was reading or whatnot. And since that, he kind of started to fall in the depth chart. And so the opportunity to play has been pretty limited because that room is pretty stacked. It's probably the most stacked room in Oklahoma has been Brandon Hall and all the stuff he's done in that safety room. So I totally understand it. Even adding to that, it's like kind of like with Day McCullough when he was here. That was one of the problems for him. He dealt with some lingering injuries, and he just could not get on the field with everybody else. And so Day ended up transferring, went to Louisville, and so I know he's doing well, and I expect good things out of him also. So I'm kind of seeing the same thing with Mikel Patterson McDonald. It's just unfortunate that when injuries make you fall down in the depth chart, you got to keep keep working and hopefully get there. But somebody's going to pick him up and get themselves a really good player.
Yeah, I really like his game. I think he's one of those dudes that plays bigger than what he's listed at.
Yeah.
I think he's like a 5'10", 5'11" guy, but he plays like he's somebody who's 6'2". He's just a playmaker. And so he'll get opportunities, but you're right, man. The safety room is stacked. It's as deep as any position group on the team. It might be the deepest safety room in college football. Will it be the best safety room in college football? We'll see. But from top to bottom, when you've got guys like Robert Spears-Jennings and Peyton Bowen and Michael Boganowski, and we're going to still consider Reggie Powers III as a safety, even though he's playing cheetah as well. And Jaden Hardy's been making a lot of noise in fall or in spring ball. Omarion Robinson is another player that I think everybody's really, really excited about, as well as Marcus Wimberly. It's a really, really strong group. And Brandon Hall doesn't show any signs of slowing down on the recruiting trail, and they'll continue to get deeper. MPM, I think, would have been a solid option in like a nickel role, playing some of that kind of a role, but it just seemed like it wasn't going to work out for him at Oklahoma. But again, like you mentioned, somebody's going to take a chance on him, and somebody's going to get a really impactful player for their defense.
Yeah. And just with the coaching that he's received from Brandon Hall, that's going to give him a nice step up to be able to compete for some spots. So we'll see where he goes. Good luck to him. Hopefully he lands. Hopefully he can land locally, right? He can land somewhere here in Oklahoma where it's easy to get going. Heck, North Texas would be also an awesome landing spot. Someplace he probably could walk in and take somebody's job. He's got the talent for it. It's, now it's just going out there, being healthy and doing it. I remember his dad was posting pictures on social media. I think he's posted stuff on X and Facebook, and he's gotten big. Like, Mikel has put on some nice size for his frame to make him be able to be competitive. But again, like we mentioned, that room is stacked, man. It's a really good room. That pickup of Powers, Hardy, and Boganowski, man, that was game changing. And you still got Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears-Jennings right there. That's your 5, right? That's 5 dudes right there. It's going to make it hard to be able to even get into the 3 deep with Wimberly as well as Omarion Robinson being there, and then Taylor Heim as well as Kendall Daniels that can both play safety as well as linebacker because they're that cheetah role. You got a lot of dudes that makes it tough to be able to get in.
Yeah, and listen, that's going to be the reality. I think not just at safety, but we might see it at other position groups as well, where the depth has gotten so much better that you're going to have some of these spring ball casualties, so to speak. You talk about camp casualties with reference to the NFL, and they have to start cutting guys. This could be one of those situations where we start seeing guys processed a little bit more after spring ball because of the spring transfer portal window, allowing them an opportunity to go find a new home somewhere else. We didn't even talk about the biggest news of the weekend. We might have to do that on tomorrow's show with Nico Iamaleava and what happened with that whole Tennessee imbroglio. We'll discuss that on Tuesday's episode, so you won't want to miss that. Make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Subscribe to Unfair Sports over on YouTube as well, and make sure you go check out Jay's channel and follow him on social media at Unfair Sports. You can follow me at John9Williams, and you can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. You can also go check out Locked On NFL Draft. The draft is not long from now, so make Locked On NFL Draft your second listen of the day with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players. Get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. Yeah, that Nico stuff is crazy. It's going to be a fun one to talk about.
Yep.
Hey, shout out to Roy McIlroy.
Yeah, big win for Roy.